If you find yourself saying, I'm fine, but your body feels like it's falling apart, this is for you. You wake up tired. You walk into work like it's just something you have to survive. You smile when someone talks to you, you laugh when they joke, and you do your job like everything's okay. But inside, you're screaming. You don't want to do this anymore. You don't want to pretend that you're okay when every part of you is not. And it's not even the work that's killing you, it's the pretending, the pressure to look like you're holding it together when you're barely breathing. You know that moment when someone asks, how are you? And you pause but still say good? That's the lie you've practiced. That's the moment your heart wanted to tell the truth, but your brain said don't. Because if you told the truth, you'd break. If you said what you actually felt, they'd look at you like you're weak, or worse, they'd say nothing at all. I remember sitting in a meeting once, nodding along, pretending to care, while I was secretly holding back tears because I hadn't eaten in 20 hours. I was anxious, dizzy, empty, and no one noticed. They just kept talking, kept assigning tasks, kept laughing. That's when I knew. I could disappear in plain sight and no one would blink. So if you're tired of saying I'm fine, it's because you've been forced to become someone you're not, just to keep the peace. But peace isn't pretending. Peace is being able to say I'm not okay and still feel loved, still feel safe, still feel like you matter. You're allowed to be real. You're allowed to feel. Let me show you the signs you've been ignoring. If you have the kind of heart that always wants to help, this is for you. You say yes before they finish asking. You fix things you didn't break. You stay late. You reply fast. You take the blame even when it's not yours. Why? Because deep down you hope that if you're kind enough, helpful enough, needed enough, someone will finally care for you the same way. But they don't. They just get used to you. And the worst part? You start getting used to being used. You ever realize you're always the one who stays behind? The one who double checks everything? The one who doesn't rest because if you stop, things fall apart? That's not responsibility. That's emotional overfunctioning. And it's not sustainable. The sign? You feel guilty for resting. You take breaks and feel like you're doing something wrong. You can't even enjoy silence because your brain screams with all the things you haven't done. I used to think being strong meant carrying everything alone. I thought if I broke down, no one would pick me up. So I never let myself fall. But one day I did. Quietly. On the floor of a locked bathroom. And no one came. Not because they didn't care, but because they never knew I needed anything. I had trained them to believe I was okay. And maybe you have too. But it's not too late. You don't have to keep holding up the world. You can put it down. You can start with one thing. Stop saying yes when your body says no. You're not selfish for protecting your energy. You're not rude for having limits. The people who love you won't leave when you stop overgiving. And if they do, they never loved you to begin with. If you've started getting quieter around people, this is for you. Not because you're shy, not because you're okay, but because you're tired of feeling invisible even when you speak. You've said things before, shared ideas, gave suggestions or offered your thoughts, but no one listened. Or worse, someone else repeated your words louder and got the credit. So now, you say less. You shrink yourself so they don't get the chance to ignore you again. It's not that you don't care anymore. It's that you cared too much for too long and got nothing back. Now you sit in silence, not because you're peaceful, but because you're protecting yourself. Because every time you tried to be heard, it just reminded you that your presence didn't matter to them. I once worked with someone who always smiled at me, nodded, acted friendly. But when I finally opened up about something personal, they looked at me like I ruined their day. After that, I stopped trying. And you probably did too. You start convincing yourself that your thoughts don't matter, your feelings are too much, your voice is inconvenient. But that's not the truth. That's a reaction to being dismissed too many times. The truth is, you still have things to say. Big things, important things. And if you're in a place that doesn't welcome your voice, maybe it's not your voice that needs to change. Maybe it's the room. You're not too sensitive. You're not too emotional. You're not overthinking. You're just finally seeing that being quiet was never your natural state. It was survival. And now, it's time to speak again, even if your voice shakes. If you find yourself always smiling in front of others but crying the second you're alone, this is for you. It's not weakness, it's not drama. It's the only time your body gets to stop performing. You've become a master at hiding everything. You walk into work looking put together, respond with polite words, even make others laugh, but no one sees what happens when you get home. You collapse. You break. You fall apart in the quiet, because that's the only place you feel safe enough to fall. The sign? You're emotionally exhausted, but no one knows. You're surrounded by people, but feel completely alone. You joke about needing therapy, but never actually go, because the idea of telling someone everything feels too heavy. And maybe you've tried opening up, but their advice felt cold, rushed, or made you feel guilty for even feeling. So now you shut down. You scroll through your phone at 2 a.m. looking for someone to understand you without needing to explain yourself. I used to text LOL, I'm just tired to people who had no idea I'd been crying for hours. I'd go to work, get praised for being reliable, get tagged in group photos as the fun one, and all the while I felt like a ghost just going through the motions. You know what helped? Not pretending anymore. Not with everyone. Just with one person. One person I could text honestly without worrying if I'd be too much. That's what you need. Not a crowd. Just one safe person who doesn't need you to be on. And if you don't have them yet, be honest with yourself first. Write what you feel. Say it out loud when no one's around. Let your body hear the truth. Because when you stop hiding from yourself, the healing starts. Even if no one else sees you, you do. If you have a soft heart but a loud mind, this is for you. You're the type who shows up for others, even when you're falling apart. You give compliments when you need them most. You make others laugh when your own smile feels fake. And the whole time your head's filled with a war between, I should be grateful and I can't do this anymore. You think, I shouldn't complain, others have it worse. But pain doesn't need to be compared to be valid. What you're feeling is real. It's heavy, and you've carried it quietly for too long. The sign? You start resenting people who ask for your help. Not because you don't care, but because no one asks how you're doing. You get mad at yourself for feeling this way, then mad again for still helping anyway. It's a loop of guilt, burnout, and self-blame. But here's the truth. You're not broken. You're just running on empty because you give so much, but no one fills you back up. One night, I finally told someone I wasn't okay. I expected judgment. I expected them to walk away. But they didn't. They listened. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't the world that didn't care. It was that I never gave it the chance to. You've been waiting for someone to notice. But maybe it's time to raise your hand. You don't have to do this alone. And if no one claps for your honesty at first, clap for yourself. Because saying I'm not fine is the first step to becoming okay again. You're not weak for feeling this. You're human. And you've done more than survive. You've held everything together when no one saw how hard it was. But now it's your turn to rest, to breathe, to speak your truth and still be loved. You don't need to be fine. You just need to be real. And that's enough.